Hey everybody, this is Andrew from the SuperHouse Podcast coming at you once again, and we got Stefan here this time around.
Hey, this is what I look like.
So welcome to another episode of SuperHouse Live.
Sorry
And
if you're disappointed.
this time around, we have kind of a brand new topic, stuff that we never done before. We've been kind of in a experimental phase of SuperHouse in a way. But anyway, to get right to it, we're more than likely going to be calling this video "Why Do They Make Fun of Me?" And I wanted to make a video about something that younger people can maybe find online that would maybe help them understand a few things about being a nerd and how they're thought of. And if you're on the spectrum in any way, maybe you have a hard time dealing with how other people think, especially about you. So I'm not on the spectrum myself, or at least I've never been diagnosed that way. I sometimes feel like I have some of those symptoms, but officially I don't have anything like that. And also
somewhere similar to Hank Hill.
Yeah.
Somewhere within that.
Well, I normally know exactly when somebody is bored of me, and I think that's something that's definitely not a symptom of this, because especially somebody with Asperger's, they usually don't know when somebody's bored of them.
You mean like right now?
Yeah, like right now.
Just kidding.
So I have 4 points here, and they're gonna go from basically kind of like surface level stuff to like more of a deeper level, deeper dive on this kind of thing. So again, why do they make fun of me? This is again a video for younger nerds. I'm 34 at the time of this recording, and Stefan, you're the same, right?
Yes, I believe
okay.
So.
Yeah, we're both 34, so a little bit older, but this is some stuff that I would have liked to hear maybe if I was a bit younger. So first off, the first thing is point number one. One of the main reasons is, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor or anything, but is that everyone does it. It's basically a tradition. It's just something people do. People catch on, and it's just people make fun of everybody for all kinds of reasons, and it's just something that people have already done, and it's just I don't know. It's
like a group forming kind of mechanism.
Yeah, people follow suit, especially when you're younger, especially in your teenage years. So that's just how it is. Moving a little bit deeper into that, I feel like, especially with people that have like nerdy interests, your fantasy life and your imagination in some ways might be a bigger deal to you just naturally compared to other people. And neither way is good or bad. It's just the way it is. Some people's sense of imagination just works differently than others. Like, for example, when I play a video game, I can often get sucked into that world, or when I'm watching a movie or whatever. And I feel like other people that aren't into that kind of stuff, more than likely, all they feel is they're just moving their thumbs around looking at a screen. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. From the outside, or from like a parent's perspective, sometimes it's just like they're just bleeping and blooping, like doing absolutely nothing. But guys, some of the best things I've ever accomplished have been in video games. Like, really proud of myself over it.
Right. But I mean, that's sort of the difference here, though. Some people have less of a fantasy life, or at least video games and movies and stuff don't do that for them. Maybe books does do that. I don't know, but they're like, if they're thinking that they're just moving their thumbs around while playing a video game, they're more focused on the physical reality. Whereas you, as a nerd, more than likely you're into that kind of stuff. If you found this video, you're sucked in, and you don't even think about your thumbs. You are Link, you are Samus, or whatever, Minecraft, or whatever you're playing. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, especially when I was younger, I was not thinking about this, but I do think, and again, I'm no doctor, but I think that there's something to this. This is a major personality difference with kids and adults, honestly. Point number 3, these are all sort of like they overlap each other a little bit, but what I think might be at the inner workings of a lot of this is something that nerds themselves don't really realize, and the people make fun of them. They only realize this subconsciously, but there is kind of an over infatuation with a fake character's strength or deeds. It's not even so much that the character is fake even. It's the fact that nerds are often they might live too vicariously through these fake characters, and you're not garnering up your own strength in whatever that is, not physically or whatever. Maybe you play violin or whatever it is. So it's you're living so vicariously through these characters that you're not focused on actual reality. So people might, especially when you're younger, people will see this as even weakness, honestly. And that's maybe a reason that you're being made fun of. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be making fun of you, but that's something that happens often in, I think, any part of the world where there's nerdy kids. I think it's just something that happens. And this is just a conversation about seeing the other side. You know what I'm saying?
You always see it in pretty much every different country's films. There's always like a meeker, more like bookwormy kind of character being bullied by these others. It's kind of like an archetypical thing of our current modern culture.
Right. And this may affect how you see yourself and how others see you if you're so deep into, a fantasy world. But anyway, moving on to point number 4, the last kind of bigger one. The thing is, and again, these kind of overlap a little bit, but living through these characters so much devotes so much time as to take away from building yourself up in the real world. I'm personally a big proponent of trying to use mythology and use nerdy stuff that you might be into as a means for inspiration to do things in reality. Again, I'm 34, and I've been thinking about this more deeply lately. And
has somebody been making fun of you?
No, but I don't know. I mean, I still sort of get made fun of from time to time, but it doesn't bother me at all. Just when I was a kid, it did, I think. And I've just been thinking about that. And like, we are living in a world right now where comic book movies sell out all the time, and there's more acceptance, way more than there used to be, especially when Stefan and I were growing up, man, in the 90s. Like, if I remember being made fun of for having Marvel cards and not baseball cards, and it was that was like one little instance, but it was just people just thought it was so weird back then. Man.
I didn't go to lengths to like show it off to people when I was younger and stuff, and I didn't go to lengths to keep it secret either. You know what I mean? It was just like kind of a thing. I just like, because you just are around who you would talk to about those interests. And honestly, like, I used to always, like, when I was in like middle school and stuff, I hung out with like more like the popular, I kind of like floated around the different scenes or whatever, but I always really wanted to hang out with like the nerdier kids that I knew, because they were always talking about video games and cool shit. And then I was kind of like, I guess I grew up a young Latino kid in a somewhat kind of hood neighborhood, you know what I mean? So a lot of the young kids my age were really like more like, I don't know, like thugged out, kind of like modeled themselves after rappers, and just kind of a more hood mentality about them. So
I think one of the things is too, like, to add to that, it's like even in the 90s when we were growing up and stuff, the football players or whatever, anybody that wasn't like a total nerd like us, it was they still played video games. They still watched all kinds of movies. But the thing is, especially in my case, I think I just took it to this other level. And I think, especially as a kid, that's just annoying for people that aren't into that stuff. And I remember sitting in the lunch room in like elementary school, like 6th grade or something, and somebody was asking me, are movies and games all you talk about? It was it's just too much for some people,
And then you hit them with like a Rain Man quote or some shit.
I wasn't watching Rain Man at that time. But.
Yeah, we also should, to any young listeners who may listen to this or end up finding this video, you shouldn't worry about what people think anyway, because most people are really dumb, and it's not
that's true
hard to prove that. So just, you can Google that and you can see how dumb people are.
I mean, one of the main points I'm trying to say too is that it almost sounds like I might even be defending those people, but I'm not. What I'm saying is, if you're being made fun of, it might be helpful for you to, even if they're wrong, and they are wrong for doing it, but it would help you to know why they do that. Why are they thinking that? Why are they different from you?
That'd give you a strategic edge in a argument.
Exactly. And if you were anywhere on the spectrum, this
psychological
is like,
motivation.
Some people that are watching this might be just brutally obvious to so many of you, but again, if you're on the spectrum or just a nerd in general or something, you might not know this stuff, especially if you're younger as well. So this is more for you, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So to wrap it up, at least my like opening kind of argument or whatever, I would just hope this video would help people that aren't into this kind of stuff, aren't into nerdy stuff, understand why a nerdy kid might be into that. It's their fantasy life is huge for them. That's a big thing, I think. Yeah. And then if you are a nerd, it will help you to understand why you're being made fun of. Exactly. And I was too. And, a lot of people are, honestly, but hopefully it'll help you just see why people do this. It's a big thing. And honestly, I didn't really know a lot about this stuff. I didn't think about it in this way until after I was 30. And I like to think about, you can't grow up and live with a high school mentality and talk about jocks and nerds and all the time like they're like everybody's 50-50 in the whole world. And here's the thing, kids, if you're watching this, a lot of adults do that still. Like, high school mentality carries on seemingly forever. It seems like it's ridiculous.
For some people,
it's not the case. Yeah, for some people, not everybody, but it seems to carry on, at least in some ways. So it's just good to know where the other person's coming from. And I'm not saying that people that are, what do you call it? Like, people that aren't nerdy don't have an imagination. I think there's just something about people that are into this stuff and they're really into it. It's their imagination and fantasy life is just set in a different way, or I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely, and there's a lot of people that are born, but develop a more imaginative kind of like understanding of the world around them. And a lot of times you have the instance of when people are getting made fun of, it seems like on one hand, they're seeing something that makes them insecure about themselves because they're really interested in that stuff, but they can't break their like cool or their status to like communicate on that level. And then on the other hand, maybe it's like, what was my other point? I forgot, but that one's a big one that I just dropped anyway. That one's, like, I feel like it's, it's an idea of transference, that you're really angry with yourself because you can't express yourself there. And then also what I was going to say is, life. Yeah. And also what I was going to say is a lot of people don't have a very imaginative kind of like mental process throughout their existence, so they don't understand. To them, it's like, that's the type of person who's like, that's a waste of time, or, it's just a waste of money, or a waste of this, or it's kid stuff,
right?
Because they don't see how, pivotal that is to a great majority of people out there. Like, movies wouldn't be what they are if it wasn't for people needing like stories to kind of help process this whole experience.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, with people that aren't into this stuff so much, they don't realize, because they're not into it, they don't think about it very deeply, and they don't have to. It's not their interest, and that's fine. I get it. But a lot of this like fantasy stuff, even comic books and all that, like the superheroes and things like that, it does relate to, ancient storytelling. It's mythology. It's a new version of mythology. I'm not saying it's like people should worship it, although a lot of people do, it seems like, in some way or another. But I'm not saying it's religious, and maybe for some it is, but I'm just saying it's a type of mythology, a type of modern mythology. And even though it can come off as kid stories, and a lot of it is for kids, obviously, but sometimes some of that stuff can relate to deeper things. And as if you're a kid and you get older, you liked Spider-Man in this way, but now you like him in this way now. And you can like these characters as you grow older. And a lot of people that aren't in the stuff, they're not thinking about it in this way. They just never, why would you think deeply about something you're just naturally not into?
Yeah.
You know?
That's why great minds think alike, you know, and like you're the best friends you make when you're living an interest-based like existence the way that we do. To me, that's what I think. I live an interest-based because I don't do shit unless I want to do it really. Really. So, you know, when you're like that and you find people that you can click on that level, it's an enhancement of life in a lot of ways, if that's the way you really think about it. And, you know, like a lot of other people like have golf or whatever. I really don't know what other people do. But,
like in my own life, I've caught myself doing this. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, because I felt like there were times where I felt like all I was doing was watching movies, superhero movies, and playing video games and stuff, which is fine. But like at the same time, I don't personally, I don't want to live a life that is lived through characters my whole life. Like I want to be inspired by mythology. And look, I'm still seeing all the movies. I see a movie every weekend at the theater.
Yeah.
And all
you'll always be able to have that, you know?
Yeah. I will. I just want to balance though, you know, and like one thing, like years and years ago, I wanted to get a scuba license, get scuba certified. And then like 2 years ago or so, I played Uncharted for PS4. Is there only one so far at the time of this recording? Anyway, there was Uncharted.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a video game, nerdy interest, obviously, but there's a scuba diving section in that. He's like searching and recovering something in that.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was one of the triggers for me to be like, man, I really want to do that. So now I've been diving. Yeah, I've been diving for just like a year and a half or 2 years, but it was definitely like, for me, and not everybody has to do this. I'm not trying to say people have to do things, but I'm just saying maybe I can impart my experience onto somebody. But it's just like, you know, that's a nerdy interest that went into an actual thing in real life. And it would be cool if I don't know, personally, I think it'd be cool if that was more of a thing. And a lot of people do that. Like I've seen, there's a lot of people that start working out and going to the gym because they want to look like a superhero. Like there's
I'll tell you, I've been playing the hell out of Red Dead, and now I really want to buy a gun. I want to hold it right, keep it in a holster right on my side, like fucking Raylan, what's his name? Timothy Oliphant and Justified.
Just I mean,
concealed carry.
Go to the range, man. Go to the range and go ahead and do it. We're in America, so
prepare for the collapse. You know,
you're going to be a prepper.
But anyway, no, to your point, you know, in a lot of ways, I can see that like a lot of video games inspire me to like want to do different things. Actually, Red Dead, for instance, did actually make me like, one day I was playing Red Dead and I was like, I'm gonna get out of the house and I'm gonna go on a hike because I'm so close to the mountains.
Right.
Because I was like in the mountains in the game and I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. And like the day's nice, so I'm gonna go. But also like playing it on colder nights recently, it's kind of like, you know, it's like when summer comes, I'm gonna really go on a road trip and like kind of just I want to hit the road, you know, and like just me and my horse, my Yaris. My Toyota Yaris.
Oh shit! I mean, oh snap! This is for kids.
Hey, we're
trying to do this for kids.
Right.
I just swore. Usually we're an explicit podcast / YouTube, but we're trying to keep this one. Trying to keep this one PG-13.
Yeah, the way sucks was kind of bad when we were kids. Now, like all our swear words are just like, you know.
It's been a level up recently.
They say tell their teacher, tell their parents to F off when they want to play Minecraft. Get out of my room. Anyway.
Yeah. I did martial arts growing up because I was into the Karate Kid and things like that. So I think I do kind of have like the personality type where I get influenced. Yeah. I just watched Hot Ones started last October or something, and then I got into hot sauces. You know, I'm just that kind of personality. But it's like a thing like storytelling in general over a campfire or through movies or TV or video games or whatever, any type of storytelling thing. Storytelling is something that humans do. Humans are storytellers. We've been doing it as long as we've had language, I would assume. So I think that it's just, comic books and superhero movies and stuff. It's the current big popular version of that. And
Right.
I don't know. I forgot my original point when saying that, but it's just
Well,
it's
it's
just
about
what we
it
do.
about these particular types of media that are perceived as nerdy being like in inspiring you to kind of like live your life as well outside of these gaming experiences or movies or comic books or whatever it is that you do.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah.
if something that help. Thanks for helping me out.
Man, I'm
Uh,
fucking smart.
if it's something that humans have always done, then what's the purpose of it? Just to be like,
Right.
oh, that's a good story, which is fine. But if you can find some inspiration to do something in the real world, I
Right.
think that's just kind of an added bonus to the whole thing. If you
Yeah.
know,
And I think, yeah, there's definitely, it seems, I don't know anybody personally, but it's definitely seems that there are those cases that you read about and you hear about of, people just spending too much time playing games and it causes
yeah,
their death or some kind of like accident or sickness or whatever. There's obviously an extreme here, but a lot of times when it's a super nice day out and I'm playing like a new game, the balance of like the joy I'm having playing that new game to the balance of, I should probably be outside doing something. Sometimes it shifts, and other days it's just like, I really should get outside. And so finding some kind of balance for those of you that are young and play a lot of video games, you know what I mean? Like make that time mean something when you're away from it, as well.
right, right, yeah. I remember like whenever I was a kid, if we weren't playing video games, we were at least outside playing Nerf guns. So we're shooting
Right.
each other in another way, a more realistic way, slightly more realistic way.
Yeah.
Um, but man, I had a point, but I kind of forgot it just now. But anyway,
What is the vibe telling you?
well, the vibe it went this my points went like a lot faster than I was expecting. But yeah, hopefully you could find something in your town. At, I don't know. I mean, there's something at your school or something that you can do when you're not playing games. And I mean, honestly, I play a lot of video games myself still. But the point is, I'm not saying quit anything. Obviously, I'm just saying it would be helpful to find a balance. Plus, your health is going to be a factor. I mean, this is sort of a tangent, but like childhood
Mhm.
obesity is kind of on the rise, and kids are constantly looking at the tablets
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So like this is just try to think about, honestly, if you're young, you're not thinking about this. None of us did, but like long term, eventually you might want to think about your health and just trying to stay more active because I mean, childhood obesity is a thing, and we do see kids gain weight from time to time. Your metabolism, especially for a lot of you kids out there, is through the roof. So you don't have anything to worry about for a while. But
Yeah.
um, but still, it would be try to find the balance. And,
Mm.
and your eyesight too. I mean, I feel like no one talks about that anymore. But I remember
What what
even in the '90s, like people said, don't look at TV too long. Don't look at your screen for too long. And now everybody's so addicted, nobody even says anything about that
Yeah.
anymore. But I mean, I don't know I mean, it depends on your genes and things like that. But I think a lot of screen time on your phone and on a computer or video game or whatever, it's can't be great for your eyes.
All right. I'm on screens all day. I don't even know what I can't see, really. Like I should
Yeah.
probably get glasses to drive at night or something, but I do fine enough yet. Haven't,
Yeah. Yeah.
but what more do you think you could say to the idea of why people make fun of other people, within these interests or without, or for those reasons that we feel a need to do that. We feel a need to pass judgment or what that means to
I think
the person who does do it, praise on perceived weaknesses.
that's what it is, though. That's exactly what it is. It's just to get down right to it, brass tacks. It's
Yeah.
the fact
Is
that
it
if you were constantly in a fantasy world, for people that aren't like that's seen as weakness. Okay.
so what do you think about the advent of VR, virtual reality worlds, and that the escapist kind of like
I think that is
engrossment?
it's gonna be taken over. I mean, I think
Mhm.
that everybody's gonna be doing it, and I think that we're gonna have. This is also sort of a side tangent here, but like I think that just like everybody's addicted to their phones pretty much now, we're in like 10 to 15 years, you're gonna have like VR addiction. It will be like Ready Player One type of stuff. See the movie,
Yeah.
read the book, kids.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's going to be a thing. But I think that even then, maybe probably to a lesser degree, but at that time, but I think that they'll probably be made fun of less, but they still
Yeah.
will be made fun
Do
of
you
just
think
because
there'd be a point?
nerds always take it to another level, and that's exactly
Mhm.
what I did growing up. It's just
Yeah.
it's a level of excitement like you're like I remember being so excited about Mario games that came out, like when Mario 64 came out. It was all I talked about at school, and I'm sure
Yeah.
people back then just like thought it was, even though they were playing the game, everybody at that time was playing it. It's just the fact that being overly excited and talking about just one thing all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it's good to be passionate about something. So if somebody's not passionate, that sucks. But
Mhm.
but at the same time, again, this is a balance thing. If you're just so passionate about it's all you talk about, not everybody wants to do that all the time. So hopefully that can help you out,
Yeah.
you younger nerds out there.
Yeah. Or
Um,
even, to to maybe like spark some kind of like reflection of your own as to what the reasons are why these things happen, and maybe not just to you personally but like within society. And but one thing I did want to say in terms of, I don't know who I can help, really, probably somebody, but I think we are all in a kind of age now where everybody's kind of finding their inner nerd, because there's just so much media there's so many genres and so many niche kind of little categories that people are like, oh, that's my thing, I love that, and we just consume it. So I think a lot of people, like, in a lot of ways, hopefully that's kind of like a good thing, to where people don't have this type of interest to make fun of each other for, because everybody's got them. I
everybody's
don't know.
doing it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I wonder how relevant this video will be in some ways, like you
Yeah.
said, like, cause it's
Time
like
capsule.
the comic book movies are constantly selling out. I mean, at the time of this recording, Captain Marvel is like, it got like a number one, number three, like top selling pre-sales of all time. And this is like what, 19, 20,
Damn.
20 on
Slow
Fandango,
down.
on Fandango.
Fucking
Yeah.
fanboys.
It's nuts. It's like there's no slowing down. Like there's no
Yeah.
superhero fatigue, at least as far as like movie sales are concerned. So
Yeah.
like there is that. And like to go back a little bit to what we were talking about, I honestly I don't know why it's perceived as weakness. There's just something about focusing on a fantasy world so much and not the own world,
Right.
and focusing on
Yeah.
somebody else's strength, like, oh, Batman can do this and this and this and this and this. But then while you say that, and while you're so passionate about that thing, that person that's not nerdy, what's kind of happening in the back of their mind more than likely is, okay, but what can you do?
Yeah.
Okay, Batman's cool and all, but that guy's fake. What can you do in real life?
Yeah.
You
And then
know?
batarang to the fucking forehead. Fucking Chad. Yeah.
If you want like martial arts, or get a bow and arrow out, or whatever, like that's cool. Like, and
Steal a
again,
car
keep
before you're 18. Learn how to play guitar.
learn guitar or whatever,
No, I'm just kidding.
watch The Crow, play some metal, like
Get
whatever,
nerdy
dude.
about the self.
Yeah, about whatever. But
Do
like
CrossFit.
there's like two different CrossFit. That's
I
a
don't know.
whole other thing. But there's obviously different personality types, and also obviously, honestly, Stefan, one of my friends who has kids, she was saying that her daughters and her daughter's friends they're like in middle school, and they still make fun of people that are into comic book stuff. So I
Yeah.
feel it's still a thing.
So it's a
Uh,
conditioning of like status quo then, right? It's like, fuck those people. They're
that's your one.
there.
Sure, one F-bomb if it's PG-13,
Oh,
man.
sorry. Yeah, PG-13.
It's hard for us,
Those are the
man.
type of people. Sorry to. This is just two different perspectives here, is what you get. But those type of people are. They don't know what they don't know. Kind of people. They're only like, this is just the way it is. This is the way I'm taught, so that's how it's supposed to be. And then there are other people who let their freak flag fly, like myself, Andrew, a little bit probably, that don't give a flying cluck about any of that stuff. And it takes time, because when you're younger and possibly like being on the spectrum, I'm not too familiar with that, but having like social cues that don't register and stuff like that, in a lot of ways, that's definitely, there's some kind of like mental blockage happening there, but in more ways, that's who you are. That's what you are. And people should be able to relate with you, good or bad, on that level. And if people happen to make fun of you, then it's themselves that they're angry about or sad about.
You don't have to hang out with them either.
When they say, you don't have to hang out with anybody.
Do not even worry about that. Just, hopefully this video will help you learn how they're thinking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it will help you. If you know how they're thinking, maybe it'll help you to not get hurt as much as well, especially if you're like a young teenager or something. You could be very emotional. I was that way as well. And
if you're one of these
it'll help you out.
types, if you're one of these non-nerd types, like the world is your oyster because it's modeled directly after your idealistic perspective of the world and how it should be, and you have that, so no big whoop, you know what I mean? No big deal, enjoy brunch.
And you don't have to go see
thanks
Marvel
for gentrifying
movies.
Neighborhoods so we have nicer parks, and enjoy your mimosa, your bottomless mimosa at brunch.
Look up
it's always it takes all kinds to fucking run this world. Not that anybody's really running it, but to keep it turning, or some such phrase like that. But there's all kinds of us here, and we're all different. And sometimes even within nerd communities, you get some brutal ass fucking bully types who are like, the bronies are the shining light of do it, because it feels good.
That's a whole other topic. That's like the
not my
other
thing.
Subset of nerddom.
Not my thing. Or furries, but they're a testament to there's a community for you out there.
Yeah. And with
if
the
you want it
too, man, you can find your own group. Especially, if you're a kid, you're probably just on Snapchat or something like that, or YouTube, so you don't care about that as much. But definitely, as you get older as well, you can find your own community and stuff like that. And this is probably obvious to most of you kids out there, but
if you're a type of person who feels pressures from the world around you for being like too solitary or antisocial or whatever, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to be around people most of the time, because some people are perfectly happy alone. It's fine to be a hermit, Don't get FOMO. You ain't missing anything.
FOMO?
Yeah, fear of missing out.
That's a new one for me, man.
You're not missing anything. The world is not what Instagram is saying it is, or Facebook,
Right.
People live, just as exciting as their life may look, they have boring times too, or whatever, but it's okay to also want to be alone and be an intellectual and thirst for knowledge and explore your interests, because for a lot of people that is like the pinnacle of what life is. Just because you're not out there fucking hang gliding and shit doesn't mean you're not living your life. It's really up to you.
Right. Whatever makes you happy, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it just like what started me on this video and this idea was that, I was thinking about like people making fun of nerds. It's been happening forever. It's in a bunch of movies even now. And like
ancient Rome.
Yeah, must, at least in some way or another. And I was just trying to think, what are the inner workings of that? What's happening psychologically on both sides? Sorry. Yeah, sure. That's one. That's that's valid. But like, why are they a dick? What's their psychological? What's the reasoning behind that? Like, I think there's a few levels, and like what I said earlier about perceived weakness and being on the spectrum and things like that earlier in this video, I think more than likely that's kind of what it is and being sucked in your fantasy life so much. And I mean, kids are just awful to each other anyway. If you're like 12 watching this video, a lot of what am I trying to say here? Kids are psychopaths. Like to each other, especially. Like it's just weird. Like as an adult now looking back on it, like that's not how adults treat each other. Like it's just insanity. It's insanity. But again, a lot of that stuff is natural. Happens all the time, no matter what country you're from.
Developing morality, decency. You need things to regret to be able to like achieve some sense of progression there with your own personal decency or whatever.
You need to regret.
You know, you've done things in the past, like as a kid. I kicked this kid in the nuts one time. Not because he was doing anything physical to me, but he was just like standing too close to me. And I was like, see you, Charlie. His name wasn't Charlie. But kicked him in the nuts, and then I got in trouble because they were like, you really shouldn't kick anybody in the nuts. You could cause permanent damage if you hit them hard enough or something like that. So I'm just like, I shouldn't have done that. So, you know, I feel for the next person who I've eventually thought about kicking in the nuts, and I'm like, that's not right. I shouldn't do that right now. Just ask him to step back.
Oh man. All right. Good story, bro.
But yeah, you know, I think from my perspective, personal perspective, I think the reason why people make fun of one another is because one, they don't understand why themselves. You know, they don't understand why somebody would even fucking like something like so stupid. You know,
it's like it's also like you play Mario, you play Minecraft. Why am I the nerd? What's the difference between me and you? We both have the same interests. Like, okay, you're a little bit better at sports than me. Like, what's the deal with that? Like, you know what I'm saying? But I think
you'll go over any normie's house that has a PS4 or an Xbox, and they're always playing NHL or fucking NBA 2K or something, like keeping their cool. They'll fucking playing Project Cars or some shit. It's like, yeah, I'm sure those games are fun, but that's not gaming, man. That's just fucking, I don't know what that is really.
Oh, that's you
should be.
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, you should be able to jump in and well, I don't speak in absolutes, but I think speaking to the other side of people who may not garner these type of interests, you know, there's a possibility you're missing out on a whole aspect of life that is made manifest within inside, you know, your mind or your inspiration or what draws you to characters and stories and stuff. If you're not really into that, then you probably, you know, it sounds really boring to me. You know, because I all the movies and books and characters and stuff that I like, you know, there's aspects of those characters that I do try to carry into my own life, you know. And so I think, you know, these stories and stuff are really important, and the means by which we imbibe those things is just technology advancing, you know what I mean? That Bandersnatch on Netflix was just video games for people who don't play video games.
Was that good?
It was, I wouldn't say it was good necessarily. My problem with it is it was just like kind of like a choose your own adventure book where if you made a wrong choice, it'd be like, you fell off a cliff, go back. And so I thought it would have been cooler if it allowed for contingencies of the choices you made, even if the story ended up being lamer or not as good, or, you know, had some kind of crazy abrupt ending. I feel like there should have been something, no going back. You know what I mean? I felt like that kind of took the fun out of it. But that's because I play video games, and I feel like people who play video games are like light years ahead of that. So people who don't play video games, like, oh my God, an interactive movie, you know, and it would come from the 90s when you had Kevin Seal from MTV being this, like, you know, playing this fucking, there was a first person movie where it's like choose your own adventure in theaters and people had to press buttons.
I do not remember that.
Early 90s, look it up. Kevin Seal, he was on MTV. It was really weird, but they were trying out like interactive filmmaking or whatever. But now we're at a point with Roku TVs and shit and your PlayStation or whatever, you can play a movie like Bandersnatch. However, it's kind of like it's introducing people who don't play video games to these interactive experience video games for people who don't play video games. You know, that's what my take on it was, because we made a few different choices and it would like make you go back or like, you know, a lot of the time. So it's just like, okay, so they have a clear narrative they're trying to get through, and they're just allowing me to think I have a choice here. which is fucking stupid. Sorry, I broke our.
That's okay. Well,
sorry,
these kids are probably watching it on their tablet away from their parents anyway.
So. Yeah, if your parents heard that one, tell them throw $1 in the jar for me.
We're trying to help you out though. Overall,
we'll
so
get yeah. Send me your email address. I'll Venmo you $1 for the swear jar.
Basically, non-nerds just realize, you know, nerdy kids have a hell of an imagination and they get sucked into that stuff. Maybe it's too much sometimes.
And one day you're going to be working for them.
So. That's a stereotype, but that might happen in a lot of cases.
Screw you, Andrew. That was a good point.
And then if you are a nerd, just realize there's, like we said, there's some reasons that they're doing that. They're still wrong, but there's some reasons, and it's good to see where everybody is coming from. That'll help you out in life in general, I think. And I don't know, man. Anything else?
Yeah. I think, you know, live your life best you can. Take it day by day. If people are making fun of you, stand up for yourself. Getting punched in the face, it's not that big a deal once it happens a couple times.
Great advice, man.
And then people see you stand up for yourself, they don't know what to do. Take the power away from them. That's my advice.
Great.
And use those frustrations later on to express yourself. That's the most important thing, as any person can do, is express yourself. Be who you are. If you fucking love video games, dive in. Sorry, swore again. Dive right in.
Be a programmer or whatever.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You never know what it could. Screw your career ideas. If you just want a game room one day when you're older to escape to. I was thinking about this today. Like, how can we better preserve those moments when we were playing games? You know what I mean? You had that perfect kind of like mix of you know, the audio from the game and stuff, and some snacks, and you're alone in your room when you're playing games or you're playing with friends or whatever. And it would be so great to be able to just tap into those moments whenever you wanted to, but we can't do that. So you got to like
to literally go back into a memory.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what, or draw a picture or something, but
like a real nostalgia machine,
or write about it. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, earlier I was thinking today about like, man, how great those times were when I was playing games, and I'm glad I play games now because I still have, and it wasn't so much about being a kid. It was about being a living entity that could perceive stuff and
it's tough.
You know, and then have these experiences in these gaming worlds that really, I don't know, got me outside of my body for a minute, or, you know, and not in so much an escapist kind of way, but just because there's that avenue there to experience something, you know. I don't know, I'm getting a little deep, but, you know, all we really are is what we have up here. So.
I mean, I'm going to be playing video games right after we finish this little session here.
Exactly.
You know, it's just something to like relax to.
Yeah, I guess my roundabout way, I was trying to say there's a joy to it. You know, whether you're young or old. You know, if you really liked Bandersnatch and you're like, say for instance, you're like in your late 40s or something, you really like Bandersnatch and never really played video games, and you're just like, wow, that was cool. I was really interesting that they did that. I hope they do that again or something. Like, I don't like to speak in hypotheticals, but
this is sort of a tangent, but I think that growing up in the 90s, we were like the first generation to kind of really get hooked on the games.
Yeah.
Because it's just the nature of gaming before that in the Atari age, nothing against them, but like if all you have is like Pac-Man and E.T. or whatever, or Galaga or Frogger or games like that, those games are good. Those are good games, obviously, but I don't think
it's easier to grow out of that.
You grow out of it. You don't get quite as sucked in as like Chrono Trigger or Metroid or whatever Street Fighter, whatever we had in the 90s. You know, like there was it just like the 8-bit and 16-bit era was like, and finally ending in the 32-bit era, 64 in the late 90s. It's just like that. It was like that perfect little, you know, window of like games were just deep enough to kind of like base your whole life on them, you know, like, you know, it's just we must have been the first, man.
Well, when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, it was just like, oh my God, I have this whole world to explore. You know what I mean? I think there were other games like that at the time, but nothing quite like that, you know. And so I think the games that our generation was able to grow into became a real integral part of how we kind of like ways to express ourselves, you know what I mean? Because when you have a game with really good play mechanics, or like Grand Theft Auto, where you could drive and kind of be a little free, you could express yourself within the mechanics of that game, or how you solved missions at the time. Sometimes there were little loopholes you could find just by exploring a little bit. There weren't as many boundaries, but you know, I feel like previous generations didn't really have that kind of like, it wasn't pivotal for their
not in the
understanding of the
16-bit
world.
era. Not even in
Yeah.
our early era, we didn't really have that. That was like
Yeah.
started in what, PS2 days, maybe?
Yeah. A PlayStation, yeah, I'd say PS2.
That's when
But
that kind
yeah.
of stuff really took off. Like PS1, it's like 32-bit shit like that, but it was more or less kind of an extension of the 16-bit era. You know, it was like Super Nintendo games on a little bit higher level with better music.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like it was a weird transitioning time. I just listened to a podcast about this, and I think they're kind of right. Like they were actually saying, man, I guess this is late in the video, so we're kind of like way off topic, but hey, welcome to the tangent part of the episode.
This is what happens when nerds get real.
They were saying that was one of the best times for game music because it had the creativity of the 16-bit world, but it didn't. What am I trying to say? It had that creativity of 16-bit world, but they had a little bit more in the 32-bit generation, and they could do a little bit more. There's just a lot of creativity at that time.
Yeah.
So
really, PS1 was like breaking into the third dimensional realm of gaming on like a really consistent basis.
And now it's like it's maybe a little bit less creative than that time, just because if all you do is like orchestral movie scores, it's fine, but it's just not. It's kind of missing something that it kind of used to have.
Okay, I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a whole other deal. But anyway, just to round it out, get finally back on topic. Any final closing statements for this kind of topic here?
No, I think that was pretty good. This live stuff is fun. Join us again next time.
All right.
Maybe I'll be showered then.
Oh my God. And we're obviously not any kind of like role model or anything, but I just wanted to kind of like, as somebody that's in his mid 30s,
at least I look good.
Try to impart something onto people that are younger than us, especially again, if you're on the spectrum or something like that, you don't know this stuff, or if you're just young or whatever, you just haven't thought about this yet. So I'm trying to help you out a little bit. That's
people are never going to stop being jerks. So learn how to deal with them early.
Know how they think. And that's what this video is about.
Yeah. Don't take things personally, because you're the only one who it matters to. Wait, the only one. Be yourself.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Well,
keep doing your thing, but just try to, know where everybody's coming from, and that'll probably help you out. So anyway, this is Andrew signing off.
This is Stefan, aka Wolfie, signing off.
Catch you on the next SuperHouse Live, everybody.
Flip side.